Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life when the weight of what comes against us feels heavier than what is within us. Moments when every setback looks like a curse, every obstacle feels like a closed door, and every disappointment tries to convince us that we are powerless. But what if the very things meant to break us were actually divine invitations to discover a deeper strength, a strength that cannot be shaken, a strength that comes from within and above? What if every curse that rises against us is already destined to be transformed into a blessing the moment we decide to stand firm in faith? There is a power planted inside each of us, an inner resilience breathed into our spirit by God Himself. This power is not intimidated by adversity, not threatened by darkness, and not weakened by opposition. It is the same power that turns mourning into dancing, ashes into beauty, and valleys into pathways of purpose. It is the strength that awakens when life pushes us to our knees, reminding us that prayer is not our last resort but our greatest weapon. When the world labels something a curse, faith calls it an opportunity. When life tries to take, God prepares to restore. When challenges shout defeat, inner strength whispers destiny. Within us lies a holy capacity to transform bitterness into wisdom, pain into perseverance, and trials into testimonies. We do not rise because life is easy. We rise because God is with us, strengthening us from the inside out. So today, as we step into this moment, let us dare to believe that nothing sent our way is wasted. Let us open our hearts to the truth that every challenge is carrying a hidden blessing, waiting for the courage of our faith to reveal it. And let us choose to walk in the kind of inner strength that refuses to bow to fear, refuses to surrender to discouragement, and refuses to let any curse have the final word. Inner strength transforms every curse into a hidden blessing because it awakens a deeper awareness of who we truly are and what God has placed inside us. There are seasons in life when external circumstances appear to rise like storms, threatening to overwhelm us with fear, confusion, or discouragement. These moments often carry the appearance of curses, loss, rejection, betrayal, delay, illness, or unexpected setbacks that shake the ground beneath our feet. Yet inner strength empowers us to meet those moments with a different posture. Instead of collapsing under pressure, something within us begins to rise. Instead of believing the enemy's lie that we are defeated, our spirit starts to remember that we were created with divine resilience. Inner strength lifts our eyes beyond what is happening around us and helps us recognize what God is doing within us. It reframes every hardship, turning each blow of adversity into a catalyst for growth, transformation, and unexpected favor. When inner strength is activated, we stop viewing life through the limited perspective of fear and begin seeing through the lens of faith. A curse is simply an event that appears to diminish us, but faith-inspired strength reveals that it cannot diminish what God has ordained. What seems like a setback becomes the soil where courage is cultivated. The moments that feel like breaking points become training grounds where perseverance is shaped. Inner strength does not deny the presence of pain, but it refuses to let pain have the power to define our destiny. It teaches us that the greatest victories often emerge from the darkest valleys and that blessings frequently arrive disguised as battles. Every difficulty that confronts us carries the potential to birth a revelation, a new level of maturity, or an unexpected breakthrough. This transformation happens not because the challenge itself contains power, but because the strength within us chooses how that challenge will influence our lives. This inner strength, rooted in faith, is what allows us to resist the temptation to complain, collapse, or surrender when life feels unfair. Instead, it inspires us to lean into God's presence, trusting that He is working in ways far beyond what our natural eyes can see. It reminds us that spiritual strength grows in moments of pressure, just as physical strength grows under the tension of weight. Every challenge we face becomes a divine opportunity to discover the deeper layers of our identity and purpose. A curse may arrive to intimidate us, but inner strength transforms it by shifting our mindset. Where others see only loss, we begin to see lessons. Where others see obstacles, we discern openings. Where others sense defeat, we feel destiny calling. This shift happens internally long before any external blessing becomes visible, and it prepares the way for that blessing to manifest. Inner strength also empowers us to refuse bitterness, resentment, or hopelessness, the very attitudes that allow curses to take root in the heart. By choosing forgiveness, gratitude, and trust, we break every spiritual chain that tries to attach itself to our emotions or thoughts. In doing so, we unlock blessings that would remain hidden if we allowed negativity to dominate our response. What was meant to drain us becomes something that develops us. What was meant to silence us becomes something that strengthens our voice. What was meant to push us down becomes something that positions us for elevation. Inner strength becomes the spiritual alchemy that turns every bad intention into a platform for good. As this strength grows, we begin to see evidence that the things we once feared have become things we now thank God for. We look back and realize that what felt like a curse was actually a doorway to wisdom we didn't yet possess, relationships we needed, clarity we were missing, and opportunities we never imagined. The struggles that once brought tears now reveal their hidden blessings with a clarity that only hindsight can offer. And as we continue moving forward with this inner strength, we become more sensitive to God's guidance, more confident in His promises, and more aware of the blessings that are unfolding even in the midst of trial. Faith empowers us to reinterpret adversity as divine opportunity because faith shifts the way we perceive the world and the challenges that rise against us. When adversity comes, it often arrives without warning, shaking our confidence and stirring questions within our heart. It may appear as an unexpected loss, a broken relationship, a disappointment, or a closed door that seems impossible to understand. In the natural, these moments feel like barriers designed to halt our progress. But when faith steps in, everything changes. Faith opens our spiritual vision, allowing us to see beyond the immediate struggle and recognize the hand of God working through the very circumstances that seem to oppose us. It turns what looks like an ending into the beginning of something great. It transforms what feels like resistance into preparation for what is coming next. Faith does not deny the reality of adversity. It simply refuses to let adversity define our story. When we operate through faith, we begin to understand that nothing touches our lives without passing through the permission of God's wisdom and love. Challenges take on new meaning. They become divine invitations to grow, to rise, and to discover capacities we never knew we possessed. Where fear sees danger, faith sees development. Where confusion sees chaos, faith sees construction. Faith teaches us that adversity is not a sign of abandonment, but a signal that God is positioning us for something more. It stretches us, strengthens us, and sharpens us, preparing us for blessings that cannot be carried by weakened hands or wavering hearts. Faith also enables us to reinterpret adversity by transforming our inner dialogue. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" Faith prompts us to ask, "What is God doing through this?" This small shift changes the entire atmosphere of our spirit. We begin to see possibilities where we once saw problems. We become attentive to lessons disguised in discomfort and to breakthroughs hidden within burden. Faith nurtures a mindset that refuses to be limited by circumstances because it is anchored in the character of God, not the conditions of life. It teaches us that adversity is not meant to stop us, but to shape us into people of endurance, wisdom, and spiritual authority. Every challenge becomes a tool in God's hands, molding us into vessels capable of carrying greater influence and deeper purpose. With each step of faith, adversity loses its power to intimidate. Instead, it becomes a classroom where God teaches us resilience, a battlefield where He reveals His strength, and a doorway through which we walk into new realms of blessing. Faith gives us the courage to believe that nothing is wasted, not even the seasons that feel the most painful. It assures us that God is present in every detail, working behind the scenes in ways we cannot yet comprehend. It allows us to interpret the very moments intended to harm us as stepping stones toward the future He has designed for. Through faith, adversity becomes the soil where miracles begin to grow. What seemed like a setback starts to reveal itself as preparation for greater elevation. Faith sees beyond the moment of difficulty and understands that God often hides His greatest gifts inside uncomfortable situations. The obstacles that appear to block our path become the very things that lift us into alignment with His purpose, The hardships that feel overwhelming today become testimonies of strength tomorrow. Through faith, every closed door becomes a redirection, every disappointment becomes a refinement, and every hardship becomes a divine opportunity carved by the hand of God. As faith deepens, our perspective continues to shift. We no longer measure situations by their outward appearance but by the spiritual potential they carry. We recognize that adversity is not a sign of weakness, but a setup for God's power to be revealed within us. Faith awakens a boldness that allows us to declare that no challenge will break us, no struggle will deter us, and no opposition will cause us to retreat. It positions us to move forward with confidence, knowing that each battle is equipping us for blessings we would not have been ready to receive without the refining fire of adversity. Spiritual resilience turns pain into purpose and setbacks into growth, because it awakens a deeper strength within us that is not dependent on circumstances, but anchored in divine truth. Pain is something every human being encounters, yet its impact on our lives is determined not by the pain itself, but by how we respond to it. When spiritual resilience is cultivated, it becomes the force that prevents pain from paralyzing our purpose. Instead of allowing wounds to weaken us, resilience transforms them into sources of wisdom, compassion, and strength. It allows us to rise from experiences that could have crushed us and to walk forward with a greater sense of clarity and conviction. It teaches us that the very moments that brought tears can become the fuel that propels us into a deeper calling. What was once a place of hurt becomes a place of healing and revelation. Spiritual resilience is formed in the inner chambers of the heart, where endurance is shaped through prayer, meditation, trust, and surrender. It is in these moments of stillness before God that we learn to release burdens we cannot carry and embrace the strength He offers in exchange. Through this divine exchange, pain is purified rather than multiplied. Instead of becoming bitter or hardened, we become stronger, wiser, and more spiritually aligned. Resilience allows pain to work for us rather than against us. It becomes a mirror revealing who we are becoming and a catalyst that shapes the qualities necessary for our next season. Every setback begins to lose its power to discourage because resilience interprets it through the lens of destiny rather than defeat. When spiritual resilience takes root, setbacks are no longer viewed as final or fatal. They become moments that redirect us rather than define us. What felt like a dead end reveals itself as a divine detour. The doors that close become indicators of God's protection. The relationships that ended become lessons in self-worth, discernment, and spiritual growth. The opportunities that slipped away become reminders that what is meant for us cannot be taken. Resilience reframes every loss into something that strengthens our character and expands our faith. It teaches us to stand firm even when the wind is strong and to trust that God is building something within us that no storm can destroy. Spiritual resilience also gives us the capacity to extract meaning from experiences that once felt meaningless. It helps us understand that pain often carries messages we cannot hear when our hearts are overwhelmed. As resilience grows, we begin to see that every struggle holds a seed of purpose waiting to be uncovered. Pain pushes us to grow in ways comfort never could. It stretches us beyond our limitations and draws out gifts, callings, and capacities that would remain dormant without the pressure of adversity. Through resilience, pain becomes a teacher revealing our inner potential, showing us what we can overcome, and guiding us toward a greater version of ourselves. The moments that wounded us become reminders of our strength, not our weakness. Another powerful dimension of spiritual resilience is that it equips us to help others. The pain we endure becomes the testimony that gives someone else the courage to keep going. The setbacks we overcome become the wisdom we share with those facing similar battles. Our journey becomes a light for others walking through darkness. This is how pain transforms into purpose on a larger scale. We realize that our experiences were never meant to break us, but to build something in us that could bless us. What once felt like a burden becomes a bridge to someone else's healing. What once felt like shame becomes the evidence of God's faithfulness and restoration. As resilience strengthens our spirit, we become less shaken by challenges and more anchored in God's promise. We learn to trust His timing even when the process feels uncomfortable. We recognize that growth often comes disguised as struggle, and that elevation is often preceded by pressure. Instead of resisting the refining seasons, we lean into them with faith, knowing they are preparing us for something greater. We begin to see ourselves not as victims of circumstance, but as vessels being shaped for a purpose that extends beyond our present understanding. God-given identity equips us to rise above every challenge with confidence and hope, because it roots us in a truth deeper than circumstances, emotions, or human opinion. When we understand who we are in God, the world around us no longer defines the limits of our strength or the direction of our destiny. Identity becomes the foundation upon which resilience is built, courage is awakened, and perseverance is sustained. Challenges lose their power to intimidate because our sense of worth, purpose, and capability is anchored in something eternal rather than temporary. Instead of allowing adversity to create insecurity, we stand firm in the assurance that we were created with intention, designed with purpose, and empowered with spiritual authority. This inner certainty becomes the steady ground that carries us through seasons of uncertainty, disappointment, and struggle. A God-given identity is not shaped by past failures, painful experiences, or the labels others may have placed on us. It flows from the truth of who God says we are: chosen, equipped, loved, strengthened, and called. When this truth settles into the heart, it shifts the way we confront challenge. Instead of approaching life from a place of fear, we step forward with boldness, knowing that the one who called us is the same one who sustains us. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to exercise the gifts and strength God has already placed within us. Identity whispers that we are capable even when fear insists we are not. It reminds us that we carry divine potential even when circumstances try to convince us that we are limited. This unwavering assurance becomes the fuel that empowers us to rise higher than the storms that surround us. God-given identity also reinforces the truth that we never walk through challenges alone. We walk with divine backing, spiritual covering, and supernatural empowerment. Knowing this reshapes the way we interpret adversity. Obstacles become assignments. Trials become training. Difficult seasons become divine appointments for growth and elevation. Identity allows us to see that challenges do not come to diminish us, but to reveal the depth of the strength God has planted within us. When pressure rises, our identity reminds us that we are equipped by a power greater than the forces against us. This awareness stirs hope even in seasons when the path is unclear. Hope becomes the anchor, and identity becomes the compass that keeps us aligned with God's direction. As our identity in God deepens, we begin to reject the lies that once held us captive. The lie that we are not enough, the lie that we are unworthy, the lie that we are defined by our past. Identity replaces these lies with truth, truth that lifts, strengthens, and restores. Through this transformation, challenges no longer weaken our sense of self. Instead, they reinforce it. Every battle becomes a reminder of what we carry inside. Every victory becomes confirmation that God's hand is upon us. Every setback becomes evidence that we have the strength to rise again. Identity builds an internal confidence that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. God-given identity also inspires us to rise with hope, because it connects us to a future that is divinely orchestrated. Hope is born from the understanding that God's plans for us are good, purposeful, and filled with promise. Even when the present moment feels heavy, identity lifts our eyes to the horizon of what God is preparing. Hope gives us the courage to move forward when everything around us suggests turning back. It keeps us expectant when circumstances appear stagnant. It anchors our spirit in the certainty that challenges are temporary, but God's purpose is eternal. This hope becomes a sustaining force that carries us through valleys, strengthens us on mountains, and guides us through seasons of transition. Through identity, we also begin to understand that rising above challenges is not about escaping them, but about being transformed through them. God strengthens our character, refines our vision, and expands our capacity through every situation we face. Identity keeps us aligned with this process. It reminds us that growth is unfolding, even when progress feels slow. It teaches us to trust God's development more than our comfort, and to embrace the journey rather than rush the destination. Every challenge becomes a chapter in the story of who we are becoming: stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the calling God has placed upon us. As identity takes deeper root within us, confidence becomes natural and hope becomes unshakable. We no longer question whether we have what it takes, because we know the one who created us has already placed everything we need inside. Challenges become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks because we understand that we were made to overcome. Here is a strong, powerful ending you can use to close the entire speech with depth, authority, and spiritual fire. When we look back at the journey of every challenge we've overcome, every storm we've endured, and every battle we've survived, we begin to see the undeniable truth that God was shaping us all along. What tried to break us only uncovered how unbreakable we truly are. What came to curse us ended up blessing us. What was meant to silence us only strengthened our voice. And what was designed to stop us became the very thing that pushed us into purpose. So today, stand tall in the fullness of who God created you to be. Stand with the conviction that no curse can cling to a life covered by divine destiny. Stand with the assurance that inner strength is not something you find. It is something God already placed within you. Stand with the boldness that your faith will always reinterpret adversity into opportunity. Stand with the confidence that spiritual resilience is turning every wound into wisdom. And stand with the hope that your God-given identity will lift you above every challenge that ever dared to rise against you. You are not defined by what you went through. You are defined by what God is bringing you into. You are not the product of your battles. You are the evidence of His victory. And as long as breath fills your lungs and purpose burns in your spirit, every curse will bow, every obstacle will fall, and every challenge will become a doorway to blessing. Rise, believe, and step forward with your head lifted high, knowing that the same God who carried you this far is the God who will lead you triumphantly into everything He has prepared for you.